Afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I haven't posted as regularly as I wanted. I'm actually in vacation with my family, so it's a bit more difficult to do some of the videos as I used to do very regularly, but I try to do the best that I can. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel, so thank you very much. Now, today I'd like to start speaking about basically the general market conditions. As I mentioned before, I do think we're going to see some new all-time highs not very far away in the future. I would say by quarter 1 2024, Nasdaq 100, S&P, and Dow Jones, we should see basically a new all-time highs on those indexes. However, I don't think we're going to get there on a straight line. And one of the reasons that I've mentioned that can cause some concern is people are looking into banks, real estate, liquidity crisis, all of that. One of the main issues that you see right now is actually TLT going down quite aggressively. For people who don't know TLT is a mix between the 10 and the 30-year-old bonds. And the way the bonds trade is very simple. When yields go up, so when interest rates go up, bonds go down. Why? Because you can always get a new bond with a new rate, which means if rates go up, the value of that specific bond decreases. Same thing on the other way. So for example, if you buy a 10-year bond at 4% and rates get cut to 1, your bond that gives 4% is now much more valuable. That's how it works. Now, I mentioned to you before in some of my previous videos that people are too concerned about the same things. Still today, you still hear the same narratives. I told you before, in my opinion, the big cause for concern in the future will be things that people do not expect. So the data coming from China remains very fragile. And I did mention that, if you go anywhere, everyone seems to agree that China will overtake the US as the number one economy. I differ on that. I don't think so. I think that's possibly a reason for the next big black swan event. The other thing that I've mentioned quite often is government debt. And the problem that you see in the stronger, most developed countries in the world is everyone seems to believe that their government debt is extremely sound and strong. Now, the problem with these countries is that they accumulate huge trade deficits, particularly the US, and huge budget deficits. Now, what does that mean? That means that by the end of every year, they need to borrow money to pay the difference between imports and exports, that's the trade deficit, and to pay the difference between the tax collection and the government spending. So as they accumulate, so this debt gets higher and higher every year. And as interest rates go higher, or at least stay at this level, the interest payments on the debt become larger and larger and larger. And they eat a bigger portion of next year's budget. So what I'm trying to say here is that this problem compounds over time. And that, I think, is going to be a cause for a big concern in the future. Because, to be honest, this is more of a longer term conversation. When I say longer term, I'm talking, at least 3 years in the future. So I don't want to get much further away from that. Because every time people predict, things 5-10 years in advance, they usually make assholes of themselves. Is what I'm seeing is we will probably need negative interest rates in the US. Why? Because I don't see how these trade deficits and budget deficits will be resolved. So the only way to endure the pain from the higher payments due to the increasing debt every year is to make it negative, just like the Europe and Japan did. Now, I'm talking about this when interest rates are above 4%, in some cases above 5%, depending on the tenor. And I'm talking about negative interest rates. So think about what I'm bringing here into the conversation. And the reason I'm saying this is not because I wish for it to happen, I want it to happen. It's just how I see the normal progression of things going forward, because I don't see governments all of a sudden saying, oh, by the way, yeah, we really need to have some positive budgets. So let's cut a bunch of social programs and raise a bunch of taxes. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see it. And I don't think you think that either. So the only way is to have negative interest rates, which cause a whole lot of problems on another sphere, namely creation of further bubbles, etc. But the point is, and that will end up badly, by the way, of course. I mean, when you operate under this kind of circumstances, you are really asking for trouble. So, but my point is, it's not going to happen next month. These banks are all going to go bankrupt next week, like the predictions you see out there, or no, commercial real estate will go to zero in next year. I mean, no, it's not going to be that reason. At least, of course, this is my opinion, right? But we'll see if I'm right. Because when I made the prediction of new all-time highs, you could not go on YouTube without finding multiple videos of everything crashing. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.